Game one of the NBA Finals was yesterday. Phoenix really shined. They won by 13. Chris Paul, in particular, 32 points on 12 of 19 from the field with 9 assists. VP, it was an outstanding performance by CP3.
It certainly was. He just absolutely carved up Milwaukee's defense. So much so that Monty Williams said he was just staying out of Chris's way, letting him orchestrate the way only he can orchestrate. You see, so the Bucks were switching 1 through 5, playing drop coverage. And though I never pretend to be an NBA coach, to whatever extent I do understand the game, it does not look like, at least to me, you can play drop coverage and switch everything like this, the way Milwaukee was doing against Phoenix. Because, you know, Chris Paul and Devin Booker are two of the best mid-range shooters in the world. And this is the way Phoenix was operating last night. You know, put somebody in a ball screen, spread out, isolation, now cook them. And it happened over and over and over again. And unless Milwaukee finds a better way to guard these ball screens and to keep Chris Paul under control, the Phoenix Suns are going to be world champions. And it's not going to take them 6 or 7 games to do it.
I'm glad you mentioned Devin Booker. He had 27. Certainly he has become must-see TV, Gary.
He is excellent. I mean, this is a guy who, you know, always projected as a possible star, but he has reached star status already. He got 27 points in game 6 assists, and he did it despite making just 1 of 8 three-point attempts. And that's another scary thing, though, for Milwaukee. The Suns shot 32% from 3, and they still beat you by 13. So what happens if you're Milwaukee when Devin Booker actually makes shots? And then, you know, DeAndre Ayton being the third piece of this big three in Phoenix. I mean, this is a guy who was the number 1 pick in an NBA draft and will forever be labeled as the guy who was picked first in the draft where Luka Doncic should have probably been picked first. And he might not ever be what Luka already is and what most people think Luka is going to become. But, man, he has developed into an incredible player, and he's on the verge of helping a team win a championship in just his 3rd year in the NBA.
Outstanding stuff, Gary. The story coming to this one was the status of Giannis Antetokounmpo, and after starting the day listed as doubtful, he played in the game, and he played very well in the loss, GP.
Yeah, he mostly looked good. Played 35 minutes, had that chase down block that was incredible, but it was hard not to notice he only took 11 shots, which is way below his average. In the regular season, he took 18 shots per game. Before he got hurt in these playoffs, he was averaging 22 shots per game. Again, only 11 shots for Giannis in game 1. That suggests, at least to me, that he wasn't completely comfortable. But just the fact that he was out there at all seemed like a minor miracle, given where we were only a week ago. And but theoretically, at least, he should be more comfortable in game 2. And his presence alone, it should give Milwaukee a chance to upset Phoenix and win this series, even if undeniably at this point, the Milwaukee Bucks are the underdogs in this series.
Hey, they had some bright spots to your point there. If you're Mike Budenholzer, and you already told us how you would adjust things defensively, but how are you feeling mentally if you're the head coach of the Bucks going into game 2?
Well, on one hand, I feel great that Giannis is back playing real minutes and mostly looking like himself because, you know, when he went down in that Atlanta Hawks series, there was no guarantee he's going to play again in this postseason. So for that reason, I feel pretty good. But for lots of other reasons, I don't feel great. Again, you just lost by double digits despite Phoenix only shooting 32% from 3, despite Devin Booker missing 7 of the 8 three-pointers he attempted. And you've still got a real problem. There's no great way to handle Phoenix in pick-and-roll situations. There's got to be a better way than what Milwaukee tried in game 1. But there is no obvious solution to this undeniable problem. And it could be, you know, what ends up being the difference in this 7-game series.
Put a cap on this story. The Suns did get some bad news. Reserve forward Dario Saric left last night's game in the first quarter. Today, the Suns announced he had suffered a torn ACL in his right knee. He will be out indefinitely. We're back, and so is the Yankees offense. If you stayed up late for it, Giancarlo Stanton launched a 3-run shot into the second deck in last night's 12-1 win over the Mariners. Time now to shine on baseball. We get into the Yankees squad. They've won their last 2 following a 1-7 stretch. The offense posted a high in runs and hits both last night. Yankees fans, Gary, and I know you're a Mets guy, but Yankees fans, they're hoping the last couple of games is a sign of things to come.
Well, a 12-1 win is always fun. Aaron Boone called it one of the best performances that the Yankees have had so far this season. They got 18 hits, 2 homers, 12 runs, in 9 solid innings from 3 different pitchers, among them Aroldis Chapman, who struck out 3 hitters in the night. So that's 2 straight wins for the Yankees. Great, but they're still just 3-7 in their past 10, and it should be noted the Mariners are 21st in the majors in ERA and last in batting average. So you didn't just beat a real contender on Tuesday night. So I'm not ready to call the Yankees fixed just yet. They're still 9.5 games back of the Red Sox, but Tuesday night was undeniably a step in the right direction, and now we get to see if they can make it 3 in a row and get back into contention in the American League East.
Meantime, Gary, Shohei Ohtani got a taste of the Yankees offense when he last took them out. Ohtani had his worst outing a week ago, 7 runs in just 2/3 of an inning. He really struggled, but bounced back last night against the Red Sox, 7 innings, 2 runs. We mentioned the Red Sox and the kind of season they're having, so that's no small feat to do what he did. He also had an RBI double. Certainly, Gary, a great bounce-back start for the league's first two-way All-Star.
Yeah, he looked like an all-star pitcher Tuesday night. Allowed just 5 hits and 2 earned runs in 7 innings and lowered his ERA to 3.49. Just amazing. A starting pitcher with a 3.49 ERA who also hits second and is leading the major leagues in home runs. It's like Boston manager Alex Cora said the other day, Shohei Ohtani is not the best pitcher in the world. That's Jacob deGrom. He's not the best hitter in the world. We could argue about that, but he is the best baseball player in the world. At the age of 27, I think you can reasonably call that young man who, like you accurately noted, is about to be the first two-way All-Star in baseball history. You think you can accurately call him the best baseball player in the world right now?
Ohtani is headed to the Midsummer Classic here coming up shortly, but it looks like Jake Arrieta's All-Star days are behind him. His ERA, Gary, is over 8 in his last 12 starts, just 1 2/3 last night. His second straight start where he doesn't get out of the second inning. They lost 15-10, Gary. This is 11 straight losses for the Cubs.
Yeah, it's really ugly stuff with that Chicago franchise right now. They've allowed at least 13 runs 4 different times in this 11-game losing streak. They gave up 13 runs on Monday, 15 more on Tuesday. It's the first time in more than 2 decades that they've allowed at least 13 runs in consecutive games. They're now 9 games back of the Brewers and 8 games out of the NL wild card. And like you mentioned, Jake Arrieta, the former Cy Young winner, he can't get anybody out. His last 12 starts, that ERA, 8.55. That's the worst in baseball for any starting pitcher in that time frame by a significant margin. He allowed 7 earned runs in just an inning and 2/3 last night. And at 35 years old, he might be on the verge of being done, though I know he would take issue with that. Being done, same goes for the Cubs this season. They won the World Series just 5 years ago, won the NL Central last season, but right now, boy, there are pretty good ways from those accomplishments.
That said, it is pretty cool, obviously, Gary, to see Wrigley Field packed again, as a lot of stadiums are, certainly. But to your point, hitting just 224, so it's not just Arrieta, but the bat's not getting it done either, Gary.
Yeah, right now they can't pitch. They're not hitting. They've got position players pitching in what amounts to garbage time for a baseball game, garbage innings, if you will, way too often. Joe Madden, not too long ago, had the Cubs consistently operating at a high level. He and the Cubs decided to go in different directions for a variety of reasons. And again, though the Cubs did win the NL Central last season, it has really gone the wrong direction pretty fast. And now there's some thought that they could be sellers at the trade deadline, which seemed wildly unlikely, just a couple of weeks ago.
Crazy how quickly the narrative can change, especially this time of year as we get into July and get closer to that deadline. With that in mind, let's take a look at your best point guards ever to play the game, your top 5. Let's dive in. Let's start at the top. Who's number 1 on your list, Gary?
Well, he's number 1 on my list, and I think he's number 1 on everybody's list as long as they're making a sensible list. And that is, of course, Lakers legend Magic Johnson. We're talking about a guy who is a 5-time NBA champion, a 3-time MVP, a 12-time All-Star. Just as a player, had incredible vision, creativity, could play any position. Evidence being that he started at center and played all 5 positions in Game 6 of the 1980 NBA Finals as a 20-year-old rookie. Got 42 rebounds and 7 assists in that win. That secured the first of 5 NBA titles that he would go on to win. It is nearly impossible to imagine a 20-year-old rookie doing something like that in this era of the NBA. But Magic did it, and then he went on to produce one of the greatest careers in NBA history.
Okay, so no surprise, Gary, at number one. Just warming up. Number two, though, gets more interesting. Who do you have in that slot?
I think it's a guy who is still playing at a high level. It's Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors, a three-time NBA champion, a two-time MVP. He is universally regarded as the greatest shooter who has ever lived. He's literally changed the way the game is played. You got to guard him all the way out to half court. He's 33 years old, but still playing at an extremely high level. So he's got some good years left. How many? I'm not sure. But Steph Curry, he has good years left, and hopefully the Warriors don't waste them. But either way, Steph Curry has already established himself, in my mind, as the greatest point guard to ever live, not named Magic Johnson. Okay,
so Curry at number two. Who's at number three on your top five list of all-time point guards, Gary?
We'll go with Oscar Robertson, who, of course, was the triple-double king before Russell Westbrook became the triple-double king. He averaged 25.7 points, 9.5 assists, and 7.5 rebounds per game for his career. He was the MVP in 1964, won an NBA title in 1971. He's a 12-time All-Star and among the players that Magic Johnson has acknowledged he admired growing up. The Big O, is so far ahead of his time in the sense that you didn't really have 6'5" point guards in the 1960s, but that's what Oscar was. And the idea that even 60 years later, he would be described as somebody who's got great size for his position is pretty remarkable.
Gary, two spots left. Who gets number four on your all-time list?
Number four, it is Detroit Pistons legend Isiah Thomas. I know not everybody would have him in the top five, but it's a guy who's a two-time NBA champion, a 12-time NBA All-Star. He was the leader of the Bad Boy Pistons, just an ultra-quick 6'1" point guard who once scored 25 points in one quarter in the NBA Finals on a bad ankle. He is the main reason it took Michael Jordan 7 seasons to win his first championship with the Chicago Bulls. And though he spent the bulk of his career in Magic's shadow, because Magic was the superior point guard, that doesn't mean that Isiah Thomas isn't an all-time great point guard. He is undeniably one of the best point guards to ever play this game, and somebody who I think belongs in the top five.
Okay, let's round out your top five. Who do you have in the fifth slot, Gary?
Well, this is where I'd put a guy that we've talked a lot about today, and that is Chris Paul, currently of the Phoenix Suns, but he has flourished with 5 different franchises in the NBA. He's an 11-time All-Star. He was the Rookie of the Year in 2006, led the NBA in steals 6 times, led the NBA in assists 4 times. He led the Pelicans to the Western Conference semifinals in his 3rd season, and they've only been back once since. He helped the Clippers become legitimate. He made Oklahoma City the 5 seed in the West last season, and as soon as he left, they went from a 44-win team to a 22-win team. Now, Chris Paul's just 3 wins away from his first championship, and he's the reason. Phoenix was 5 games below 500 last season. The Suns add Chris Paul, and they finished 30 games above 500 this season. That is an incredible turnaround, and it is why Chris Paul belongs on the top 5 list of point guards right now. And that one thing that's always been missing, that championship ring, it looks like he's going to get it real soon.
Okay, Gary, so we have time. Who barely missed your cut in the top 5?
I felt awful leaving John Stockton off. I mean, this is a guy that I grew up watching. He's the all-time leader in assists in the NBA. He was a 10-time All-Star and is going to be on most people's top 5 lists. But, I decided that Steph Curry's got to be in there above John Stockton, Isiah Thomas, Chris Paul. So I would have him just outside of the top 5 right now. But I did feel a little embarrassed doing it because he's obviously an accomplished and an incredible player who was impactful in that league for a long, long time.
It works. You're a top 25 and 1 guy. Everybody reads it all the time throughout college basketball. It's a little top 5 and 1 in terms of all-time point guards. Good job, GP.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell for more videos.